What's going on, summoners? Welcome back to another Pro Guides video. I'm Kangas, and today I'm taking a look at our Challenger Coach's 5 broken AD carries that you should be abusing in your solo queue games. We got some spicy picks alongside with tips and tricks on how to pull them off, so hit that sub button and let's get into it. Starting off our list, we got the loose cannon, Jinx. Jinx is known pretty well for her insane ability to hyperscale into the late game. But did you know that with the buffs she's been receiving, she can also be an early game menace too? She may not be Mr. 200 years, but she's definitely the original team fighting AD carry and should not be taken for granted. For her early game power, you can think of her somewhat like a weaker Caitlyn. Her long range rockets and damage allow her to take really favorable trades with nearly every meta AD carry. Combine this with her amazing ability to clear waves, and you got a recipe for high prio laning and a great late game insurance. But that's just one part of her queue. We haven't even mentioned the rest of her abilities. Whether it's her minigun's ability to give really high amounts of attack speed, her W's great range and damage, or even her E's ability to disengage fights, Jinx is pretty jam-packed with tools to help you win your games. Of course, like any other immobile AD carry, Jinx is pretty susceptible to champions that can close in on her. So be sure to focus on your positioning when playing Jinx so you can get that pentakill announcement rather than the defeat sound. But before we move on to some tips and tricks, I gotta make sure to remind you guys that since you're the Pro Guide family, you can get a 20% off discount on your next Pro Guide subscription, right now. Speaking of which, if you're serious about climbing, don't forget to check us out at ProGuides.com for exclusive access to guides, courses, coaches, and more. If you've never used Pro Guides before, don't miss out on this amazing opportunity to reach that dream rank. But now let's get back into the video. Before we send you off with an amazing Jinx build, we want to make sure that you're equipped with some of the tips and tricks before starting that play button and loading into your next solo queue game. First, let's start off with some reminders in order to refresh the brains of some of our older Jinx veterans. Since your minigun provides you with attack speed, don't forget this carries over to your rocket launcher for a few shots too. This means that while you're last hitting minions, you can quickly switch to your rocket form and auto the enemy since you'll already have some attack speed built up. Get used to building this habit as it gives Jinx a ton of her early power. Another important reminder is that your W cast speed scales with attack speed. This doesn't add too much power to your kit, but it's a nice quality of life change that can end up saving your life later on. Finally, don't forget that your E works as a grounding tool. This means that champions cannot dash over them. I know it may seem small, but this means they'll block, can't W over it. Lee Sin can't use his second Q. Ahri can't ult, and etc. It gives you some pretty nice safety, especially once you know how it works. So now that we've covered a few of the reminders, let's quickly cover some great tips and tricks. Jinx's ultimate and W have pretty interesting interactions with Flash that can end up leaving you with the outplay of the century. For both your ultimate and your W, you can flash as soon as the animation starts, and it'll cast from your original position. This can throw enemies off so that they fail to dodge the skill shot, or better yet, this means you can flash away for an ability while you're casting yours. So say goodbye to getting Malphite ulted while having to stand still and launch your death rocket. Another great tip is to not forget how powerful your passive can be. It gives you free movement speed and attack speed that can go over the attack speed cap. Use this to your advantage when you teamfight at an objective, or if you just need to run away after taking a turret. This passive is what makes Jinx such a great teamfighter, since she'll be able to run at high speeds and shoot rockets at the entire enemy team from pretty far away. Alright, now let's jump into Jinx's build. For your summoners, since you'll be playing AD carry, you're taking Flash and Heal in most of your games. Feel free to take Exhaust if you're playing versus a team with a lot of hard dive champs though. As for your runes, you'll be taking Conqueror, Presence of Mind, Legend Bloodline, Coup de Grace, Taste of Blood, and Ravenous Hunter. You can also take Lethal Tempo instead of Conqueror since it's still a fairly viable option. We just heavily recommend to try both and see which one fits your playstyle better. Once you load into the game, be sure to pick up your Doran's Blade and Health Potion. Look to recall for a Noon Quiver on your first back, but if you can't, don't be afraid to pick up boots and build those into Berserker Greaves later on. Once you have your boots, finish up your Kraken Slayer and look to start building your Runaans. These two items give Jinx a lot of power, and you can start dealing a ton of damage in teamfights from here. But your next item, Infinity Edge, will only make it better. Once you finish these core items, you can choose from a few situational items, but you'll most likely be building Lord Dominic's Regards. Afterwards, top off your build with your choice of Guardian Angel for additional survivability, Mercurial Scimitar to deal with CC, or Mortal Reminder for some extra healing reduction. And before we move on to our next AD carry, don't think that we forgot about our question of the day. What is one of your favorite fun builds? If any of you have played or seen me in an ARAM, you know that I love Lethality Jinx. Building full cooldown reduction with Lethality just makes your ultimate deal insane damage, and that W's on like a 3-second cooldown. Really fun to play, but let me know yours in the comments below. Next up, we got Kaisa. Kaisa has held her crown as one of the top AD carries for most of the season now. Her ability to pump out high amounts of damage, outplay opponents, and overall have a ton of versatility make her extremely hard to manage when she's on the enemy team. With her nerfs, she was hit fairly hard, but they weren't enough to take her down from being one of the best AD carries at the moment. At first, Kaisa can seem a bit strange as she doesn't really fit a standard AD carry playstyle. She wants to play similar to Vayne and use her invisibility to kite and shred opponents, but she's also not afraid to dive on top of the enemy AD carry for a quick assassination while her team is fighting. Being able to recognize which one of these you should be doing may be one of the more difficult parts of playing Kaisa, as it only takes one mistake for your team to lose the game. That being said, she's a champion that is really fun and skill expressive. If you enjoy champions like Lucian, Vayne, or Samira, you will love playing Kaisa and you should pick her up naturally. So before we go over her build, again let's go over some key tricks that you should master with Kaisa before just jumping into your next ranked match. One of Kaisa's strongest points in the game is ironically her level 2. Kaisa's W is unmatched in the amount of burst damage that it can provide, but many players end up using it incorrectly. Don't use your W to start the combo, use it to finish it. This means instead of running at the enemy and using W and auto-attacking to proc your passive, you're going to want to auto the enemy until they have full stacks of your passive and then use your W for maximum damage. This burst potential catches a lot of players off guard and can often just win you the lane early on. One good thing to practice is your W flash, since it works really good at level 2 all-ins. Practice this enough and you'll start your snowballing lead early almost every game. Moving on to Kaisa's build, you'll be taking a standard AD carry path. This means be sure to grab Flash and Heal, or Exhaust if necessary. For your runes, you'll be taking Hail of Blades, Taste of Blood, Ravenous Hunter, Magical Footwear, and Biscuits. Hail of Blades lets you use the combo that we mentioned earlier at an even faster speed. So that means if you do it correctly, you'll outtrade your opponent almost every time. Plus, you get free boots and some biscuits, so laning won't feel so bad regardless. As usual, be sure to grab a health potion and a Doran's Blade to start off the game, and your goal early on is to get your Q evolve as soon as possible since it is one of Kaisa's best power spikes. This means grab Noon Quiver and Pickaxe, but don't necessarily rush your mythic item. Instead, pick up a Serrated Dirk so that you can get your Q evolve afterwards. After that, then you'll pick up Berserker's Greaves, finish off your mythic item, finish the Collector, grab a Runeance, pick up Infinity Edge, and finally, finish off your build with your choice of Mortal Reminder, Guardian Angel, or Lord Dominik's. If it's absolutely necessary, we won't tell anybody if you somehow end up with Azonias in your inventory too. Next up, we got everyone's least favorite AD carry to play against at the moment, Tristana. Tristana has recently climbed the ranks as a very powerful AD carry due to her ability to be flexed to mid lane, as well as counter a lot of the other carries that decided to rise to stardom. While we won't be covering mid lane Tristana here, she's still a powerful pick in both roles, and honestly isn't that hard to pick up. Tristana scales extremely well due to her passive and the fact that her E was changed a while ago to scale with crit chance. That being said, Tristana is mostly picked up for her amazing early game power as she's able to jump on immobile foes and delete them in an instant. It'll take quite a bit of getting used to, but don't be afraid to be extremely aggro on her. Test your limits, in a normal game of course, so that you can figure out your damage first. Once you have a solid grasp on the champion, you'll be able to pick up really early kills and snowball games in no time. So as for some of the tips and tricks for Tristana, she doesn't have too many due to her relatively simple kit. That being said, don't forget to use your E mid-air when you cast your W. It will give your enemy way less time to react, as well as give you additional damage. The mechanic isn't that difficult, but for some people, it can be hard to create the habit. Actually, while we're on the topic of her W, it's important to remember that Trist can ult mid-air too. This means if you're looking to escape an enemy, you can jump away, and as you're going sky high, ult them to close the gap even further. And one last little neat trick with her jump is its ability to buffer other abilities. It'll take some practice, but this means if a blitz hooks you, as long as you cast your W once it connects, you won't actually be pulled. Kinda like Ezreal's E, but it's way more forgiving. Overall, she's a pretty basic champion that can be a lot of fun and offers really high snowball potential. For her build, we're looking to empower the early game and snowball her so that she can easily carry the team. So for summoners, be sure to take Flash and Heal. Remember how we had all the other AD carries take Exhaust? Well, honestly, that's kind of an easy solution to deal with Tristana early on. If you're the Trist in this case, be sure to play around the cooldowns and it won't matter as much. For your runes, you'll pick up Hail of Blades, Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection, Ravenous Hunter, and Presence of Mind. Oh, and Alacrity. Just like Kaisa, your abilities work extremely well with Hail of Blades since it'll give you a lot of free early stacks on your E. This is what makes your level 2 so freaking powerful. Since you'll be playing AD carry, pick up the health potion and Doran's Blade, and for the rest of the items, you're looking to delete enemies early game and shred from afar later on. So that means you'll be building Kraken Slayer, Berserker's Greaves, Phantom Dancer, Infinity Edge, Lord Dominik's Regards, and then your choice of Mercurial Scimitar to deal with hard CC, Guardian Angel for survivability, or of course Mortal Reminder if your team needs anti-heal. And don't forget to pick up Executioner's Collar early on if you're going to build Mortal Reminder in the late game anyway. Usually it's worth it to pick it up early. Always looking for the next way to make some cash, we got everyone's favorite bandit from Shurima, Sivir. Recently, Sivir has slowly risen to glory with her powerful lethality build. With it, not only was her player base revitalized, but new champs rose to the meta to help shut her down. While there's also a good crit Sivir build right now, we're going to be covering her lethality build as it's one of the strongest and easiest for solo queue. Plus, who doesn't like tossing a Worldly Blade of Death every 3 seconds? So right off the bat, if you like playing Ezreal, you'll probably enjoy playing lethality Sivir too. Her specific playstyle means that she'll be looking to shove waves and play extremely safe until she gets a few of her vital items. Once she gets them though, there's hardly anyone who can match her wave clear power, let alone her poke potential. If you played the old Sivir, this build may feel a bit strange since you're not looking to basic attack as much, if even at all. Instead, you're going to be tossing out Qs when possible and trying to hit the enemies before a fight even begins. During fights, be sure to use your spell shield to your advantage as well as your W so that you can deal damage while you wait for your Q's very short cooldown. Similar to Tristana, Sivir has a relatively basic kit that can make it a bit hard to show how much mechanical prowess you have. That being said, we still have some useful tips. For starters, don't forget that your W counts as an auto attack reset. This may seem small, but it lets you sneak in a free attack where you would otherwise need high attack speed. Another great thing to keep in mind is that you shouldn't start every game with a tier. In some games, you'll really need the health and lifesteal from Thorn's Blade in order to survive early on. In those cases, just be sure to pick up a tier on your first recall as soon as possible. For the games where you can farm for free, go ahead and pick up the tier just as your starting item. Jumping straight into her build, be sure to pick up Flash and Heal as your summoner spells, and for your runes, since you'll be looking to deal tons of damage from afar, you'll want to take Dark Harvest, Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection, Ravenous Hunter, Mana Flow Band, and Transcendence. As we mentioned earlier, you can start with either a health potion and a Doran's Blade, or a tier with 2 health pots. In most cases, as long as you play safe, you can never really go wrong with starting tier on Sivir because of her kit. As for the rest of your items, make sure to upgrade your tier into Mana Mune, grab some Lucidity Boots, a Dusk Blade, Cyrilda's Grudge, Edge of Night, and then finish off your build with your choice of Mercurial Scimitar, Guardian Angel, or Chempunk Chainsword. And last but certainly not least, we've got Caitlyn. We had briefly mentioned how Jinx might be the new Caitlyn with her stronger laning phase, but if played correctly, there will rarely be a champion that can take her throne of being the best champion for early game pressure. Full of a ton of outplay potential, fun mechanics, and just overall powerful attacks, Cait is one of the original AD carries that never ceases to impress the community. Plus, even times when she's not meta, she's still usually a decent pick. While Caitlyn may not have the best skill expression that she did before her headshot cancels got removed, she still offers a way for players to show off their mechanical prowess with cool traps, weird combos, and headshots that may one-shot your AD carry late in the game. Nevertheless, she's a basic champion on paper, but played properly can be pretty difficult. With that in mind, let's go over some tips and tricks to make sure that you're hopping into solo queue with your best foot forward. Some key combos that you should learn if you're looking to pick up Caitlyn are the interactions that she has with her net. Whenever Caitlyn presses E, she can cast either W or Q during the animation. This allows you to do things such as a net away from the enemy and drop a trap at their feet at the exact same time. It can be a bit difficult to learn at first, but it offers a ton of power and outplay potential. For those of you who are looking for a bit more of a mechanical challenge, try incorporating Gale Force into these and see what you can pull off. As for the next tip, we always see Caitlyn players make one big mistake. When somebody steps onto their trap during laning phase, they instantly shoot for the headshot. It's best for you, if possible, to shoot your Q as soon as they step on the trap, and then shoot your headshot. This is because normally your Q loses damage based on how many enemies it's gone through. If the enemy is trapped though, you deal the full damage to them no matter what. This means you'll guarantee your Q to hit as well as the headshot. Just keep in mind that tanks tend to have tenacity and may just walk away from your trap entirely. So with that out of the way, let's go over Caitlyn's build. For your summoners, be sure to take Flash and Heal, and if necessary, you can always take Cleanse versus heavy CC comps or hard engages like Leona or Ashe. As for your runes, you want to take Fleet Footwork, Presence of Mind, Legend Bloodline, Coup de Grace, Taste of Blood, and Ravenous Hunter. The combination of Fleet, Presence of Mind, and Taste of Blood allow Caitlyn to take better trades on top of the already massive amount of range that she has. Since you're an AD carry, you'll be starting with a potion and a Doran's Blade. As for the rest of your items, you're looking to recall for a Noon Quiver as soon as possible, and then look to grab some boots and finish your Gale Force. Once you have Gale Force, you gain a really good amount of power. Afterwards, finishing with your Berserker's Greaves, and then grab a Storm Razor. For your third item, we heavily recommend Infinity Edge due to the raw power that it provides. But if you need additional siege and range, don't be afraid to just pick up a Rapid Fire Cannon here and build Infinity Edge later. To finish off your build, grab a Lord Dominic's Regards and top it off with a Guardian Angel if you feel like you need armor, or a Mercurial Scimitar if your verse is a team with hard CC, or again even a Mortal Reminder if your team needs the anti-heal. Either way, be sure to build QSS or Executioners early on if you're looking to finish the items later. It's just worth it to have them after 2 items. Overall, AD carry is in a really good spot right now because regardless of your preferred playstyle, there is a good pick to match. Just remember to always have a backup plan in case it's banned or picked against you. especially if you're in a ranked game. But hey, if we convince you to try any of the champs in this video, or you were already hot on them, then hit that like and sub button. Also check out our community Discord through the link in the description down below, so you can come hang out with gamers just as into League of Legends as you. That's it for today, so as always, best of luck on the Rift, stay hydrated, and I'll see you next time.